really care about or even pay attention to most of the time. And the other, opportunity. And that's pretty much for the same reason. Change that requires action means we need opportunity. And because the change that we're here to talk about today is so important and fundamental to each of us, you deserve to hear this from me in as easy way as possible, in a story format. That's because stories are easier to hear, easier for me to tell, and easier for all of us to remember, especially when it's got value that's entertaining to you as listeners. So I'm going to give you that for the first time and tell you Adam's stories from the New Mill Road over the past year. And I mark the start of the past year as when Ava Law, the genius who's brought us all here together, granted me such a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Ava. And there's a photo of that. Ava and I shaking hands, building the New Mill Road together. And Ava gave us from Australia the very first opportunity to introduce the New Mill Road concept at FOSS last year. And there's the Australia delegation leader, Stacey Martin, championing the New Mill Road concept at FOSS. So thank you very much for that, Ava, and Stacey. And that year went very quickly. Very quickly. And we're going to go through that. So the next chapter of the story over the last year included going to Chengdu. Why go to Chengdu in China? Because that's where the largest private food company is in China. New Hope, that you probably all know. And we talked about the New Mill Road concept, and we talked about that with New Hope. They liked the idea, and they granted me the most wonderful opportunity to take this photo together as we shake hands, building the New Mill Road one handshake at a time. And just preparing that presentation was an opportunity for me to learn so much. And a really big idea came into mind during that experience, and I want to share that with you later. And then from Chengdu, after I had a chance to go see the beautiful pandas, as you should all do when you go to Chengdu, I flew to Beijing and met with our mutual friends there. Friends that are also colleagues of Ava, and we talked about the New Mill Road concept. And that was at the Chinese Agriculture Academy of Science, which is the leading institution in Beijing. And they liked the idea so much that they let me take my banner over, and like Ava and I did, we shook hands and we started building the New Mill Road, one more handshake at a time. And I felt just such a wonderful opportunity to have systemic cooperation. So then from Beijing, as many of us do, I flew home to Hong Kong. And I caught up with Ava and our mutual friends in the investment and private equity industry. And as you know, the industry is an ecosystem. Family offices invest together with private equity, co-investment. Some of you allocate LP money that way, and perhaps even exit on deals that birth up from the ground. So it's really important that as we work together as an industry, that we're connecting people within the family office space and all the way through the private equity industry. And these two champions, some of whom you may know, also like the New Mill Road concept, and we talked about that and we shook hands on it. Now, as you can imagine, I want to inject as well. Between that time too, I went to Tasmania, where I recently moved, and met with the people from the Chinese Academy of Agriculture Science. And maybe some of you have never been to Tasmania, but Xi Jinping went there in 2014. And when Xi Jinping is traveling somewhere like that, you've got to ask yourself, what kind of meaning does that have? Why, in my lingo here, would Xi Jinping travel down the New Mill Road south all the way to Tasmania, perhaps as a gateway into Antarctica? So, having said that, as you can imagine, that's a lot of traveling around. And having done all that traveling around, I kind of felt like I'd been on the Silk Road, east-west. I was exhausted. However, when I started to look at it from a 2,000-year time perspective, which may sound a little bit ridiculous, I realized that it wasn't so bad. Because people who were moving east and west then, they didn't make it. A lot of people died on that Silk Road. The new Milk Road today is a hell of a lot easier for me, and actually enjoyable, like being here and talking with you about it today. And I thought to myself, east-west. That's kind of just one direction back and forth. Where is the north-south angle here? Yep. So, and that's when I started realizing that there's one big change that's already happened. Hang on one second. There's one big change that's already happened. And many of you may already know it. But if you think of it in a 2,000-year perspective, it's pretty new. China's gone out. Before, it was not out. China is now out. And China was, when the Silk Road was built, China was what people now may call a sleeping dragon. It was Napoleon himself that said, China is a sleeping giant. Let her sleep, for when she wakes, she'll move the world. And if Napoleon were alive today, he might say, China is woke. And once that change started dawning on me, in a 2,000-year perspective, it helped me consider that maybe the Silk Road was less about China going out and more about Europe and other countries going in to get what they wanted. And not all of that was pretty. Like, for example, in the 6th century, Byzantine monks reportedly went to China and stole and smuggled silkworms out. And that changed both economies dramatically. And maybe the Milk Roads are more about China actually going out to get what it needs, because it's growing. And as we talk in metaphors, kind of what's a fun and easy way to think of that, right? As a sleeping dragon. So is a dragon only going east and west? No. When dragons wake up, they're hungry. They're not just going to go one way, they're going all over the place. So this dragon is looking at going north and south. Yeah? And, but we're missing a name for that trade route. We don't have a name for that. In fact, if you look at this little map right here, you'll see right there, New Zealand is left off, which is a massive player in the food industry in the Southern Hemisphere. The island on which I live, Tasmania, isn't even showing, and it's disconnected. But it's a huge economy that's really important to what China needs, which is in food and agriculture, right? So what do we call that thing? What do we call that trade route which exists right there? And that's where the New Milk Road as a concept really started to kind of click for me over the past year. And in a way, I don't know if it's what I'll be doing or what we should be doing, but in a way, in the future, historians may ask, the Silk Road and the Milk Road, is Hong Kong where they meet? Is Hong Kong where these two great civilizations and Western cultures are meeting? Maybe. We don't know that. As investors, what we really care about, the returns that you're going to get, the impact investment that you're going to get, you need to know what's really happening now, in the now, right? Why are so many people going from China to Australia? And the fact that China, and I say this with all respect, in the last 40 years, it has world-class technology, it has built train systems, it has world-class infrastructure, it has so many world-class things that I can't even list them all. But I know from having spent time there and studied at Tsinghua University that it's still missing in too much of China a world-class food system. like we have in Hong Kong, like China's peer economies have in Japan and the United States. That part of it exists in certain cities, but too much of China is missing the world-class food system. And that's a basic need that everyone deserves to have. And that's why mothers are moving and buying Daigou products from WeChat shoppers in Australia. That's another reason why Australia has the longest running non-recessionary economy. It just passed Norway the other day with 104 quarters of non-stop recession. Okay, so bear with me 1 second. So, and as you start to think about what it's going to cost for China to build what it needs to have, which is a world-class food system, you've got to ask yourself, what's the cost? What's it going to take to build that? So one estimate that comes to mind is 4 trillion in maybe 20 years, because you can't just write the check and expect that to show up, right? However, and we're starting to work with banks, and our friends at China Agriculture Academy of Science have a number on that. But you know, the idea is so early that it's not clear. This is an investment opportunity in the macro section, right? So very quickly, when you look on the New Milk Road website, you'll see that the New Milk Road is the same as what the Silk Road was. It's an investment trend, it's a strategic relationship, it's a cooperation concept, it's historic change that you as investors all need to pay attention to. Now, I want to talk about specific opportunities that are great examples of return that, in a way that you won't actually believe. I couldn't believe it when I learned about them. We'll talk about specific ones as well. But before we jump there, I just want to talk about the kicker. Because 4 trillion as an opportunity is a big number. But that's only one country, and that's only China. We haven't touched on other industries. We haven't touched on the fact that there's that big circle there where like 48% of the world's new consumers live. I think that circle doesn't even have a name. And the New Milk Road runs right through it, right? And we're the only Western country in Asia that's in this time zone. Yeah? Over there is Europe. They built the first milk road into Australia. Yeah? There's the US over there. And if you think of it, the US in a way is kind of here with the date line. The US, Amazon's building operations in Australia. This is where cultures are meeting. This is a platform for businesses that know that if they want to access customers in this circle, that Australia is a stable platform in which to exist. Now, having said all that, I think what's really important as well, and it fits in this trend, is that we're going from a 4G to a 5G mobile system. And when we get into a 4G mobile system, customers in China are not going to wait for Europe to wake up. They're not going to wait 6 hours. You won't even spend a minute for a website to download. You're not going to wait for the United States to wake up. They're on the other side of the earth. This time zone, this whole time zone here is the Milk Road. And we are the only Western country in Asia that has the DNA and the capability to help China build things like what it needs, which is a world-class food system, just as a starting point. So Australia, in a way, there's 28 million people versus, I think, 4 or 5 billion people here. We have too many customers. It's a mega super trend of investment. And it's not easy. Most people, most companies are not able to access this trend. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, opportunity. Now, my neighbor, when I recently moved to Tasmania, my neighbor said to me, "Oh, Adam, you got to hear about my nephew. 4 years. He started a probiotics company. 4 years. That's the time it takes to go to university. He started with zero. He borrowed money from his family. I think it was less than $300,000-400,000. 4 years later, he sold that company for 500 million US. 4 years. Yeah, that's a food play. The reason? Because Chinese companies know that that's a massive play there. okay? Right. But not all opportunities are created equal. No way. That's a winner. And I gotta talk with you about a loser, or something that looks kind of shaky, which is why I'm standing up here and telling you that, that partners are important to choose, right? So that thing, that's called VDL. It's the largest milk dairy farm in Australia. It was sold to this gentleman about 4 years ago. The New Zealand group used to own it and sold it to this gentleman. So if there's an argument about how, at least a while ago, how Australia was not permitting foreign investment. I mean, Australia has sold its largest dairy farm to a Chinese group. I mean, you can't really argue with that, right? But the tragedy is this gentleman, God love him, he's trying to move milk from Tasmania up to Ningbo to feed his people there and create a brand. He can't do it by himself. His board just quit, right? Like, I mean, and I mean this in all due respect. I mean, he's wearing a business suit and he's standing in a cow field. There's a big cultural difference here, and China deserves to have local partners who know what they're doing. And the New Milk Road concept needs to be about partnerships, and that needs to be understood on both sides. So you can Google this, you can check it out. I think it's a really good warning sign that not all deals are created equal, and you've got to choose your partners wisely, right? So my company is a property developer. Yeah, I develop property in what I call the New Milk Road economy, from there to there. My expertise is here. It's a tough to reach area. The assets are massively undervalued. Not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody's able to do it, right? But we all know that it's a super mega trend. Yeah? So where I'm putting my money together with other families, other co-investors, I'm putting it together in organic, because that's where the profit margins are. If you're gonna move food from there to there, you better have profit margins. Commoditized milk doesn't work. Yeah? So, and there's a big movement, and it's still early days, for converting farms from generic to organic. And that's in milk, dairy, fruit, and vegetables. So I'm focusing my time, energy, and money on those type of deals, as well as the other deal that we looked at, which is I'm looking for another one of those, obviously. Now, all right. And the way that I'm doing that, I want to put this out here right now, is that 20 minutes is too short a time to describe to you this mega trend that's in place, right? Like the Silk Road was a mega trend. The Milk Road is another mega trend. Yeah, it's too quick. So I developed this platform right here. If you're already on the New Milk Road website, which is very easy to find, you can see the address right there. You skim to the bottom of it. The easiest way to find the people, like myself and Stacy Martin, who I think just came in, is to go onto Open Sesame. Stacy knows everyone. These people know everyone. Australia's a small country. We all know one another. What we want to do is know how you fit in, how we can work together on this New Milk Road economy. So, if you'd like to explore relationships online with us there, suggest go to the New Milk Road website, check out Open Sesame. If you've got any questions about it, let me know or Stacy know. And then later this year, we're organizing an investment tour. I've talked with Ava about that, and it's going to be called the New Milk Road Investment Tour. Now, simply talk directly with Ava about it, and that's actually a picture of the property that I purchased in Tasmania. It's about 20 acres. It is the most magical place in the world, and I can't wait to get on the plane tonight and go home to that. Yeah. So, having said all that, if this all sounds too complicated for you, what I'd like to suggest, if you just like the concept, if you believe that people in China deserve a world-class food system, yeah, go to our website, check it out, and if you also believe that the New Milk Road concept can make it easier for people to cooperate, then let us know that you'd like to have your name up there with a little web link, which we've already started doing this week, and that way we can keep in touch on it. So if you believe in the New Milk Road economy and the people in China deserve a world-class food system, and that this can help us cooperation, let us know. I'd like to say thank you very much. There's my contact details. I thought the social media was up there, but I think I'm working on a different slide. So thank you very much. There's my WeChat. I appreciate the opportunity. And Ava and Stacy, thanks very much, and see you all online.